Peace, folks. Maurice here, and Sister Camille.
Hello,
How you
everyone.
doing?
Doing well, doing well. How are you?
I'm on the move, on the move, on the move. But we have a lot to cover since
Busy.
we were on a Monday, and every day is just something happening. Whether it's underground or uh, continentally or internationally. So bring people up to speed. I don't know if you wanted to jump off. How do you feel about jumping off, Camille? Sharing
Um,
first.
I would rather not. Would
You rather
rather
not? Okay.
start.
All
Yeah.
right. All right. Let me do
Let
that.
me.
So
Yeah.
we'll start with what's unfolding uh, on the ground, particularly in Goma, and just been, speaking to folks uh, in Goma and the Masanja Coalition, our partner on the ground. We work with about 2 dozen organizations in Goma itself in the displacement camps. And, before the city was captured, they moved about 64 families or so. Each family has about 8 to 10 folks in them from the Bulengo camp into the city and secure, safe space. Uh, and they did the same with the Mbuti community, who's also part of the Sanja Coalition, the so-called Tuareg Pygmy. And uh, as time after the capture of the city, they moved everybody into one space where they were able to provide food. They started out sheltering folks in tents, and it's a rainy season there, so they had to transition folks from tents to wooden structures, which they started building. I'm sure some of you have seen some of the videos that we've posted, and bring in water, food, connect the people who needed medical care to the local clinic. And it's kind of interesting. It's a they're able to do that, Camille, because of uh, how the Yole and the Sanja Coalition go about providing relief. It's not just a question of relief, but they look for a sustainable way of providing relief. That is to say, if you're going to provide relief, make sure that you provide it with an infrastructure so that even after the emergency or after the crisis, you have an infrastructure in place that goes beyond the moment. So the space in which they moved the women to from Bulengo was a product of the 2021 Nyiragongo volcanic eruption, where people were fleeing the eruption and they needed a safe space. So investment was made in land that can support a large number of families. And uh, after the crisis, uh, people will go on, but the land will still be there. It could be farmed and just a lot of things be done on the land. So the coalition has really acquired three major plots of land where now displaced members of the displaced communities need to move. They have space for them. I won't say where all of the land is, but they're in in some of it in the city of Goma, and others just out. So part of the reason why I'm sharing that is that this week, or not even this week, a few days ago, they said, well, the newcomers, as they call them, new administration, and shut down Bulengo. People know about Bulengo as one of the who was the largest displacement camp. So we'll share some pictures and videos of the women and tearing down the tents. And we're before Bulengo was like a field of tents, hundreds of thousands of people in Bulenga, but it's no more. It's gone. They let folks know that you have to break down and leave. Right. That's what they're sending people back to the villages. And about folks are saying maybe about 70%, 7 out of 10 people, families, are heading back to the villages. And there's a whole host of challenges that go into that. And we won't really get into it on the show, but or in this episode presentation. However, uh, you have a situation where some people are going back and some people are staying. So the mamas that the Basanja Coalition works with, uh, many of them have decided to stay. About 64 families or so. So now they have to find space for them, right? And by the grace, they have the space for the women that's safe. And as long as you are in communication with they call them chef de quartier, like the neighborhood chief, so to speak, right? And then the new folks, the new administration, are basically engaging with the chef de quartier, neighborhood chief, and they're doing like a census, making sure everybody who's in the neighborhood um, can be accounted for and actually belongs there. So they're working that out. But if you were to see Belengo before and see it now, it's just like, the same that was done with Kanyuchina early on and a few other camps. So they're basically dismantling the camps, sending people home, and those who have some recourse can rent a home in the city, I think for $10 so. I don't know if it's $10 a week or $10 a month to get rented. And so that's part of the challenge that folks are facing in Goma proper under the new folks. So I bring that up to in part to give a sense of the still precarious nature of what folks are facing in Goma, to give a sense of the trepidation that's there, the calculations that people have to make, home, stay in the city, and seek relief. And it's just like a total disruption, even for people who've been displaced. Like, you people are content because the folks in the camps, all they wanted was go home. But they truly want to go home in a way that is orderly, and there's some kind of support, back in the villages. But folks who have been supporting the Basanja Coalition, it's because they invested in the coalition over the past year and a half that the coalition has been able to create space where, amazingly enough, even in the midst of a war and occupation, they're able to maintain the space. That is to say, they're not at the whim of being in a displacement camp and the new folks coming and saying, you got to go, and then everything is just, have to be uprooted. They have the relationships locally, whereby not only have they been able to secure 3 plots of land in the city, outside of the city, nearby, that they can now support some initiatives, 64 families that they'd move from Bulengo into the farm inside the city. And now they have 74 families that have just been recently displaced because they've had to, just totally dismantle the Bulengo camp. So that's an update for you those of you who have been, supporting the work of the Basanja Coalition, who believe in the model that it's not just a question of providing aid, but sustainable aid that can even withstand, withstand volcanic eruption, withstand occupation, and it's a model that the coalition made up of about 24 local organizations right there in Goma, been building, for uh, well over, actually 2 decades in some instances. That's a little bit of good news, right? In the midst of the horror, in the midst of the killings, in the midst of uh, just the atrocities that are unfolding or have unfolded, that you have these local institutions that are strong enough to continue doing what they were doing uh, before the occupation, before the city was captured. So we'll be sharing a lot more just in terms of how the families are doing. The 64 families in the farm, and 74 families in another, and then of course the Mbuti community, and how the coalition, the Basanja coalition, is weathering the current environment. So I just wanted to start off with that, just dealing with the stories coming from the ground. They've sent us far more pictures and videos that we've been able to post, but we'll get that and give people an update on how they're doing, how they're making it, and how they can folks can continue to support them as they bring in water to the farm, as they bring in food, as they move the families from tents to wooden structures, especially in the rainy season now that they need a protection. So that's like on the ground. But Patsy was sharing with us what was unfolding in Bukavu with the folks there, his family, and his network of folks, where there's a lot less trauma. Things that they're saying that things have gotten back to whatever you can call normal. That means the markets are open, people are moving around, and it seems to be a little different situation than what we see in Goma. So that's just a brief update. Yes.
Wait, so that's interesting because like in Bukavu, wasn't there a like at least I saw an article that talked about like summary execution of children?
Yeah, if you notice when I think the first time the M23 and Rwandans came in, right? The Congolese military fled,
Hmm.
and they left guns and ammunition behind. Right? So these young people were picking up the guns, and from what the folks were sharing with us on the ground, there were young people walking around with guns, right? Which, and in some instances, were you know holding up folks and um, you know attacking some folks. So one of the things that the folks in Goldman shared is that as these new folks try to implant an administration, right? It's taking them time. It's challenging, and there's no judicial system or anything like that. So whether it was in Goma or even in Bukavu, they said, well, if there's any doubt, discrepancy, or questions, the same thing is happening in Goma. The young people would have guns. What they would do, they just shoot them. So just execute them. It's not like it's like due process or anything like that. Yeah, that is certainly one of the aspects that's callous in this. As it is, that's one of the things that young people to no fault of their own. They sent us some pictures, and you can see these, like the guns are bigger than the kids, Camille.
Hmm.
And then you have loads of bullets, and they just picked them up, even and
Yeah, like there's also
it's a shoot to kill order.
Yeah, there's also like very disturbing images of children. Yeah, and there's also like so many reports of like children being taken um as
Yeah,
to then like be trained.
should be trained. Yeah, yeah, yeah. The
Um
same thing is happening in Goma.
yeah,
Uh,
and there's yeah, some
or
of the
they call them retrain and re-educate.
yeah,
Trained for
the
children,
re-education
re-education.
I'm like, oh, we've heard
Right?
that language before in
Before, yes, yes,
whether it's
yes. You
1984.
know,
Yeah, and like
so,
going back to the children with like the guns that are larger than them, it's also just like some of them are in like, military uniform, like,
yeah, right. Because they're picking up they left everything, right?
and
Left the guns, the uniforms, and they just bolted. You know.
yeah, that to me is just, yeah, it's just really, I mean, all of this is really sad and devastating, but I did cry yesterday just thinking about these like kids whose like childhood was robbed from them, and instead they're out there, you know, having to, yeah, no childhood. And like these are
Yeah,
just little kids who
and the
deserve better.
ones who are not gunned down, as you said, they're taking them and putting them, taking them to
Yeah.
re-education and training, and
And it's
you
like
know,
those kids deserve better. They deserve
yeah.
to like be
Um,
able to play and
and that's what we say, Camille, often, that whatever argument Paul Kagame makes, right? Say, oh, Tutsi minorities being discriminated against. Oh, we feel insecure because of the Democratic Forces for Liberation of Rwanda that's roaming Congo. You can make all of the arguments. Say you don't even have a dispute with those arguments, and we do. We have tremendous amount of dispute, right? You have to ask yourself the question, and people out there have to ask themselves the question: was this the best way to resolve those uh,
Mhm.
contentions that you have? Right? We occupy parts of the Congo that's almost as large as your own country, where you send in thousands of special forces to invade a city of 2 million people. Uh, that within the first 5 days or so, 3,000 people were killed. I think Médecins Sans Frontières, Doctors Without Borders, they've upped the number. I think maybe up to 9,000. Create an environment where hundreds of women are raped and burnt alive. You really have to ask yourself that question. All of the arguments the Rwandans make about fear and concern and discrimination and all of that, is that all justify the atrocities that we're seeing? Children being executed, women being raped and burnt alive, mass graves. So it's no wonder that really after 30 years, really 3 decades, we see a Rwandan top official being sanctioned by the U.S. government, James Kabarebe. Congolese remember James Kabarebe when, uh, you know, Rwanda invaded the Congo in 1996 and installed Laurent Desire Kabila. It wasn't just Kabila that they installed. Because Kabila, he didn't have an army. Folks are like, Kabila's marching across the Congo. Well, no, he's not. The Rwandans are marching across the Congo, right? And they have a spokesperson
Mhm.
in Laurent Desire Kabila. The Rwandans are marching across, capturing the Kivus. And they have a spokesperson, a Congolese spokesperson in Kone Nga, right?
Yeah.
Nga.
Yeah.
So uh, the formula from 1996 to the present remain intact, whether it's AFDL, Alliance of Democratic Force for the Liberation of, Congo Zaire, or it's a CNDP, National Congress for Defense of the People, or M23. The constant, behind these alphabet soup of militia groups that actually capture cities and move across the country, the constant has been the Rwandan military and the Ugandan military.
Mhm.
Kagame in power for 30 years, Museveni in power for 40 years. Both of them have the people in a death trap. So the Department of Treasury, this I guess it was yesterday, sanctioned James Kabarebe. Now James, when I was talking about when the Rwandans installed uh, Laurent Desire Kabila in May of 1997, they also installed as the head of the Congolese military James Kabarebe, right? Rwandan soldier, militiaman is the head of the Congolese military, right? And he was just in Washington, I don't know, a few months ago, after the war crimes against humanity that he's committed, and he's been the main person. One of whether it was in 2012 or today, they been fingered as commanding operation control of the militia group, the M23, right? But yet he was in Washington. He was even being interviewed in think tanks in Washington, visiting members of Congress. This is guy that the Spanish courts had an international arrest warrant out on.
Oh, he's the one that Tony Blair's
He's one of 40. No, he's not the one. That's General Karenzi. But he was a part of the coterie of folks. So he's a well-known war criminal, right? Well documented, but yet true to form. The government, the think tanks, and everything. Rolled out the carpet for him.
Sorry, I keep interrupting you.
No. Go ahead. You got it. Sorry.
I was reading the response of the Rwandan Minister
of Foreign Affairs.
Yeah, like their response to essentially being like, oh, the U.S. should not get involved and should let the African Union do its thing, and they're undermining the value, by having these sanctions, they're undermining I was just like, the narrative is
the narrative, yeah, and saying sanctions are not going to end the conflict, and I mean, we as an anti-imperialist formation, we're not down on sanctions, but we see it as a contention between a state and its client. Rwanda is a client state, so-called ally.
Oh, I can't hear you anymore.
Did you? Can't hear me?
Now I can hear you. I don't know if there was.
Okay, yeah. So, but it's not just the U.S. that's a sanction a top official in the Rwandan government, top official in the militia, M23. But you hear now the British foreign minister when he was at the G20 meeting in South Africa, coming out with stronger statements and saying, in the coming days, maybe look for something, right? So,
did you see that Rwanda stopped their I forget what it was with Belgium because of what Belgium said over?
Yeah, they said they suspended their development cooperation with Belgium because of Belgium's stance vis-a-vis Rwanda. That's Rwanda. You have to understand Rwanda, the Rwandan government, right? The Rwandan government is a master propaganda government. They'll bluff. And I remember in 1996, right? That in the summer of 1996, the Rwandan embassy in Washington, D.C., was recruiting Congolese from the diaspora to go back to the Congo, right? And bringing them back to serve as the political front for the military operation, right? This was in the summer of 96. The invasion didn't take place until October of 96. And all along from, the Kagame was denying we didn't, we're not behind this. Now we knew because we're in Washington and we're the Congolese diaspora. There were folks that we knew that were being recruited by the Rwandan embassy, out of the Rwandan embassy. And it wasn't until they captured Kinshasa, May 1997, and then in July 1997, Kagame gave an interview to the Washington Post, and it seemed like he gave it to set the record straight, because folks were like, oh, the militia groups, the rebels, the FDL, they moved across the Congo at lightning speed, amazing military operations. And Kagame, I think he doesn't like people to necessarily take the spotlight. So he was coming. I was like, no, that was us. They don't have military. Kabila was a spokesperson. He didn't have a military. It was Rwandans, right?
Yeah, I was
So
watching, I don't know, a documentary that is sort of talked, I forget the name of the officials, I should be better about this, but like it was the Rwandan that like introduced, like essentially that it was just Rwandan led, it's like they're the ones who introduced the military to Kabila, like they're the ones who
oh yeah,
did all
yeah.
the,
It's called L'Afrique More So is a title of that documentary by amazing Egyptian filmmaker Jihan El Tari.
yes,
And Africa in Pieces in English. We have it on our YouTube channel. Those of you
yeah,
who
that's
can you
where I
can
watched
go
it.
and watch it. And the thing about that documentary, listen, if you watch that documentary, L'Afrique More So, you'll be very clear, right? Because you have uh, James Kabarebe in his own words, right? You have Paul Kagame in his own words. You have Yuri Museveni in his own words telling you, right? Telling you in their own words. This is not like speculation. This is not a UN report or anything like that. This is not the intelligence services of the United States, or Britain or anything like that. These are these guys saying how they planned the overthrow of Mobutu, how they brought in the Congolese and put them together in a room and sat them down and tell them what the deal was and are you in or you out, right? They're telling you how they did it, right? So if you watch that documentary, L'Afrique More So, it's on our YouTube channel at Congo Friends on YouTube. You shouldn't have any doubt about how to, you can see clearly the propaganda that's used, the formula, that's used. They deny until it's advantageous for them to reveal the truth.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So they're masters of deception, masters of propaganda, right? That so when you see them having a dispute with the Belgians and all that, it just does take with a grain of salt. When Kagame is saying that sanction me and withhold aid, that's not going to change anything. It does change. It does affect them because in 2012, that's what happened, right? That's what happened in 2012. There were aid was withheld and the M23 was dismantled. Just that they went back into Rwanda and Uganda. They weren't the folks who were the in command and control, the Kagamis and the Musevenis. They were untouched and they remain untouched to this day. But with this just reinforces for average people around the world was to continue to pressure, reach out to our governments, continue to let the governments know, irrespective of which country you're in, that you want to see justice for the Congolese people. You want to see the Congolese people regain their land. You want to see the occupation lifted. You want to see the invasion ended, right? Pressure the European Union. Congolese Action Youth Platform in the UK doing an amazing job in mobilizing UK citizens to pressure the British government. So that's what we just have to keep it up. And these crimes that they're committing locally is, and maybe you can talk about it, your experience, Camille, with Global Citizen. They bring in the entertainers, the Rwandan government to really sports wash or entertainment wash or cleanse the crimes that they're committing locally. They cleanse them on the international level by presenting themselves as good citizens. Say, hey, if you're connected with Kendrick Lamar, you're cool, right? You're like him, right? If you're down with Dave Chappelle, John Legend. Hey, if you're shaking hands with John Legend, that association, you can't be shaking hands with John Legend and creating an environment where women are being raped in the Congo. That isn't like, messes with your mind, right? Oh, the NBA, National Basketball Association, is so cool. You have the NBA comes to your country, and they open up a league, and yeah, they wouldn't do that if you're committing war crimes, crimes against humanity, and plausibly genocide. NBA wouldn't do that. Formula One wouldn't do that. Arsenal football team, they wouldn't do that. The World Cycling Championship, they wouldn't be trying to get to Kigali. So that's what they're playing with our minds. That's why we have to continue to put pressure, continue to expose the tactics, and we know them. You just have to watch Africa More So, and it will just give you the blueprint. So share with us, what you experience in with the folks at Global Citizen right there in New York.
Yes. So I went to the global, this was part of a larger Global Citizen Don't Support Genocide campaign. And I went to their office, yeah, just to try and talk to their senior leadership about the unfolding situation in Congo, and was pretty much dismissed by them. And in a, in yeah, in a way that they try to play semantic games, being like, oh well, Global Citizen is, it's really actually like Move Africa, that you, and like you need to learn more about our initiatives. Which then I did, and I went on their website where they're like, we impact like 1 billion lives. But
Mm,
yeah, because they have this like campaign to end poverty, and they
in
say
poverty.
with like women and children. But and then, which is something that I did say, is like, if you're working with women and children, then like, and you, then like you should care about what's happening in Congo and not support it, because like women and children are being raped in Congo. Um,
Raped and executed, right?
yeah, raped
And
and killed, raped, killed, and burned.
yes,
Well,
yeah,
all of
yeah,
the
yeah.
horrific things. So I feel like I lost my train of
No,
thought.
no, but no.
Oh yeah,
So
the
okay,
1
go ahead.
billion. So, but like, but it's actually really deceiving, because then when you investigate, because I was like, there's no way that this company actually impacts 1 billion lives. It's like what
Mm,
they do is that they sometimes like partner, like I think their 1 billion numbers comes, they did a program in India, for example, and then like, or like India, they supported a program that was happening in India, and that's
mhm.
how they inflate their numbers, being like, oh, we have a reach of like blah blah blah. And then something that I wanted to say about the NBA and like Arsenal and all these organizations that support Visit Rwanda, and that support Rwanda, it's like it's all an economic game for them, right? And it's like just, and that, which for me is why like this is a larger, um, yeah, it's like they benefit from the destabilization that's happening, like indirectly and directly. So it's like it's a economic gain. So like we also have to be strategic as like people who care about Congo with how we spend our money, and it's like, and like it's by not supporting, which like, and I think the ministry, Therese Kaikwamba Wagner said this really well, is that it's like it's really sad, especially with those sports and soccer slash football, because a lot of Congolese kids support these like football teams,
Mm,
right? So it's
mhm.
like the um yeah, because soccer, football is a game that everybody enjoys. And
Yeah.
then last comment with the NBA, I actually was working at a company that like told the NBA where to invest in Africa. This was like back in like 2018. We are still like Fame was a consulting company.
Mhm.
So it's just like something that I personally grapple with. I was like, oh, like back in 2019, when the NBA asked us where to go in Africa, we were like, go to Rwanda. And now here I am dealing with the ramifications of the NBA in Rwanda.
Well, I mean, the NBA justifies it. ESPN had done an investigative report and brought the question to the head of the NBA leadership, and they basically said that the State Department said it was okay. So, doesn't matter what Kagame is doing in Rwanda, Congo, State Department. So we'll go with what the State Department says. We just absolve ourselves. There's no responsibility that we're going to assume. But the thing about I wanted to say about your visit, you know going there and knocking on the doors, is that they can't say they didn't know, right?
Yeah.
Because what these institutions do is when the public opinion shifts, right? Then they claim like ignorance, but they
Mhm,
can't. John Legend can't say he didn't know
mhm,
what Paul Kagame is doing in the
mhm,
Congo. Global citizens can't say, you know, uh, they don't know. Move
mhm,
Africa can't say they don't know. Kendrick Lamar can't say he doesn't know because it's his company that is partnered with Move Africa to go to these different places on the continent. The folks in the Bay Area, big up to them. They were in front of the at the All-Star game
mhm,
in San Francisco last weekend. You
mhm,
know, protesting, passing out leaflets, educating people. So there are people standing up and letting folks know, like, if you're, you know, in cahoots with Paul Kagame, you're complicit, right? The crimes that he's committing in the Congo, because he's counting on your quote unquote good name, on your popularity, on your influence to to confuse people, to soften the blow, so to speak, to cover for those crimes that he's committing. So we have to keep educating, as you said, right? Make sure you go to at Congo Friends and see the action steps that we have there, the 5 action steps that you can take. Keep educating, and keep spreading the word using those coltan filled powered phones to spread the word, right? To share information from from our website and our social media platforms. And yeah, you have to keep writing the letters, making the calls. Go to freecongo.org. We have the letters. I think we're up. I don't know if we've I have to check to see if we're over 70,000 letters sent to members of Congress calling on the United States government, to the Congress, to not use U.S. taxpayers' dollars to fuel conflict in the Congo. So there's something for everybody to do, right? Something for everybody to do, irrespective of where they are in the world. And you check our action items out, and you'll see that there's something for you to do. So I know we got to cut this one short, Camille. I don't know if you any other items you wanted to bring up that we may have missed, keeping people up to date on what's been going on the ground, what's been going on continentally. The African Union met this week, pretty much.
Oh yeah, I guess the one thing, because when people are talking about solutions, they're like, oh, the Luanda process, or the East African SADC meeting crossover, AU. One update on the Luanda process, I think, is like Lorenzo, the president of Angola, can no longer head it because he took a position at the African Union, I think.
Yeah, he heads up the African Union now.
For the next year. So I think like that is like paused, from my understanding, or...
That's a good question. I don't know what the implications of that are. The process is still very much in place. It's just that he's not the mediator. Tshisekedi had visited him this week. He's making his rounds. Folks just thinking that maybe Chad was going to come in militarily to support the Congo. The thing about it is that if you've noticed, right, it's difficult for other African nations to come in and support the Congo directly, because if you look at Tshisekedi, it's like he's not necessarily the most reliable partner, right? You don't know what he'll say one thing, and then he said so many things to the Congolese people, but hasn't delivered. So that makes it kind of tough. It's kind of interesting what I was thinking. I was looking at the mercenaries, right? The Romanian and Eastern European mercenaries that were captured in Goma. So they must have been saying in their minds, right? Listen, the supply chain is cut. Like there's no backup coming for the Congolese soldiers. The commanders, they've all...
Yeah, it's like, I'm not dying for this country. Like,
I'm not going to I'm not going to go out there and put my life on the line when everybody else is bolting, and I don't have any. So if mercenaries are saying that, then that there's some hesitancy there, that there's not that confidence in the Congolese leadership for nations to put themselves out. The Tshisekedi hasn't made any of the regional meetings. He has, I was thinking, I was like, okay, because he's been talking over the past couple of years, and when he looks Paul Kagame in the eye, he's going to do this and do that. He wasn't at the East African, meeting, the EAC meeting, which I understand. That's like going into a den of lions, right? But he wasn't, at the Dar es Salaam, at the joint East African and SADC meeting. So, if you're not, as a president, commander-in-chief, not showing up, I was thinking he'd go up and just face Kagame, at least slap him. You know what I'm saying? Just I've been waiting for this moment to just slap you, right? Look him in the eyes and say,
I would
and
sure make
point the finger,
a headline.
right? I mean, but he was virtually. He didn't even send his foreign minister, I think, who's been the most articulate voice
Mhm.
coming out of the administration. The way she's acquitted herself, whether it's at the UN Security Council meetings, doing media rounds, just she's exceptional, in that case. It's not. If you imagine if you had that kind of energy, that kind of clarity, that kind of confidence coming from the top, then I think the dynamics would be a little different. And so that's something that I'll leave. Gaitan can talk about that. He's a Congolese citizen, so he can talk about his own government.
Yeah.
Right? So I'll leave that to him. He can go talk about but even if you were to take all of that into consideration, none of it justifies what the Rwandan government is doing in the Congo.
Mhm.
And more people in the world are coming to see that and recognize that. The U.S. government obviously has, with a sanction that it put on, you can understand. James Kabarebe, right? I mean, the only other person you can sanction higher than James Kabarebe is Paul Kagame.
Mm.
So when you sanction James Kabarebe, you just like, that's like a brushback to Paul Kagame. Like, hey, we're going after your right hand man, your boy. He hasn't left you. He's been with you since, forever and a day.
Mhm.
And had him here in Washington. He just came in suit and tie, sitting down, looking, all respectable. And
Mhm.
we sanctioned. So no, the Rwandan government is like natural. So coming weeks will be very.
The sound is being funny again.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, it's
Uh,
it's better. I don't know what's
okay.
going on.
I don't know if I moved back or what, but the urgency, as I shared with you from the outset, how people are suffering under the occupation, the urgency demands that we continue to, put the pressure on. And speaking of that, just give you a heads up to have a lookout. International Women's Day, Washington D.C. The Congolese diaspora going to be mobilizing on
Mhm.
International Women's Day
Yes.
to call for peace in the name, in the spirit of Congolese women, an end to the occupation, end to the invasion, end to the rapes. And so, please be a part of that effort. I don't know if there's a flyer out already, but just follow us on our X account on Instagram and a number of other platforms, in addition to Friends of the Congo, to see how you can be a part of March 8, how you can endorse the march, how you can send people to the march. So this is an opportunity for people not only in the metropolitan DC area, but throughout the United States to stand with Congolese
Mhm.
people and Congolese women in particular. And
Yeah.
you're part of that organizing committee there.
Yes, and there's like for New York folks too, there'll be a bus leaving from New York, so like don't feel that you can't make it if you're in New York or so like if you're in the New York area, maybe we'll meet in Brooklyn
Right.
um to leave from there. Should be pretty exciting actually.
Yeah. It's an opportunity for people to send a message, to the world, let them know that it's time that we stand with Congolese women. It's been far too long. As Dr. Mukwege, founder of Panzi Hospital, laid out in a article commentary in the New York Times this week. If y'all get a chance to check that out, very compelling argument that he's been making for decades. Appeal for justice, an appeal. It's March 8th. The march is International Women's Day. March 8th. It's a Saturday, March 8th. So just hit us up, DM us,
Yeah.
send us a DM
Flyer and
message.
poster coming soon.
Yes. So we're counting on you. Even if you can't make it, we hope you're going to be in solidarity online, supporting members of the Congolese diaspora as they mobilize. They've been mobilizing on so many levels. Really, meeting the moment for their family back home. So counting on you to be in solidarity for them. So thank you, Kito. Thank you for putting that up there. Anything you want to bring up before we jump off?
No, I think that's all from me.
Thank you so much. You have so much more. You're talking about the work you're doing and, and building and reaching out to faith leaders, trying to whip them in shape to come and join the movement. So maybe we can, next time on, you can talk about what that was like, meeting with faith leaders. I think there's something coming from the faith leaders.
Oh, for sure.
Throughout
Like
the
there was
years.
a lot of, and we could talk about it next time because like that, it's a whole thing. But like the general, I'll give a quick overview. So I went to the Samuel DeWitt Proctor conference, and that is a conference that's been going on, I think, for the past 60 years, and it's a collection of faith leaders that are like, actually, most of them were very radical. I talked about the like history of the Congo, and had so many people come up to me afterwards being like, oh, I didn't know, and like now that I do know, I'll be like trying to do more and being more involved. There was a lot, and for the people who did know, there were many people who were like, okay, so what are we doing for the Congo? What do you need from us? Like, just like this, like very energized.
You're like, scan this QR code right now. You take your Cotan PowerPoint and scan it.
And yeah, so there is definitely a movement and mobilization, and actually like some of them wanted to help with the March 8th march, but like it's also happening around the Selma March is happening at the same time.
Right. Well, we may be in Selma too. We got maybe. No, I'm telling you, folks are serious. They're making connections. They're organizing. It's just like you're doing. Going to Little Rock, Arkansas. There's just so much organizing that's taking place. So when you see, these sanctions coming out, and when you see aid being withheld, just know that the diaspora is meeting with leaders, decision makers, faith groups. Just a lot of meeting, a lot of organizing. It may not all be on Instagram in a short video, and actually that's not where most of the organizing takes place anyway. If it was like likes and views, Congo would have been probably liberated already. I don't know, but the heavy lifting behind the scenes that you and so many other young Congolese are doing, it's just remarkable. That it's not seen. Oh, why aren't more people on this live? We didn't promote it. We just jumped on. Folks didn't even know we were going to jump on. It's late Friday. Folks getting ready to party. But it's archived. It's archived on our YouTube and Facebook and our X channel. So yeah, this is probably one of the lowest. Not a lot of people on this live late Friday, but that's fine. They fluctuate, go up and down, but it's there for people when they're ready to come in and check it out. All right.
Okay. Peace, everyone.
Peace. Enjoy the weekend, and see you in Washington on March 8th.